I surveyed over 50 TDS players, asking them what they thought of every single event in TDS. In this video, I'm going to be covering every single event that was not promotional or an April Fool's event and see what the community ranked them. Keep in mind that these are community rankings. None of these are my own personal opinion. Now, before we get started with the rankings, I'd like to explain the formula of this video a little bit. First off, in this survey, I asked people to rate each event one of 5 different categories: amazing, good, neutral, bad, and awful. This essentially works as a star ranking system. So amazing means 5 stars, neutral means 3 stars, and awful means 1 star. Alternatively, if a person did not play that event, they could vote did not participate, which skips their rating entirely. I also asked each person to describe why they ranked the event the way they did, and so I will be giving an explanation as to why the community ranked an event the way they ranked it. Also, to give older events a more fair score, they will be having altered scores. Events with less than 9 participants will have did not participate votes count as 3-star votes instead. Unfortunately, since this is a survey, I can't guarantee that all responses will be from people who have experienced events themselves. I tried to eliminate people who didn't actually play the event by telling them to not vote. However, that didn't stop quite a few people from answering for older events that they didn't actually play. Because of this, I can't entirely guarantee accurate results, at least for older events. Also, video production started before the 2025 Christmas event, so you will not see that event in this video. Now, without further ado, let's get on to the rankings. First off, at number 20 in last place, we have the Takeover event of 2025 with a total average of 1.1 stars. According to player descriptions, this event has absolutely no pros. One respondent said, "This event was so bad that if I could rate it worse than awful, I would." Another respondent said, "If you somehow enjoyed this event, you're wrong." Overall, multiple respondents said that this was the worst event of all time, and you can't even call it an event due to it only having recycled content from survival game modes. Side note, this is the only surveyed event to have absolutely 0 reviews above 2 stars. At number 19, we have the Hunt Mega Edition event of 2025 with a total average of 2.7 stars. According to player descriptions, this event had some very decent challenge, and one player described it as the best challenge. Another player also said that it was a step up from the previous Hunt event. On the negative side of things, mostly every player agreed that it was a very bare bones event, and the recycled enemies really dragged it down a lot. Overall, respondents had a common theme of calling this event mid. At number 18, we had the Hunt event of 2024 with a total average of 2.8 stars. According to player descriptions, this event had a very unique enemy designs and had a very fun map as well as good music. Most respondents agree that it was yet another bare bones event, however, it wasn't necessarily a bad event. Overall, respondents agreed that this was a somewhat rushed event, but it was pretty fun to play, with only a select few respondents not liking this event in the slightest. At number 17, we have the Sword Fight on the Heights event of 2019 with a total average of 3 stars. I'd like to add that there are multiple events that were given 3 stars on average, so all of the events that I'm about to mention can all be pretty interchangeable if you wish. There's only one respondent who played in 2019 and gave the time to write out a description. This description is, most of the players didn't have a good loadout for the event as the game was released not long ago, so it was pretty hard to complete. Overall, there were just a lack of respondents who actually played this event. At number 16, we have the Area 51 event of 2019 with a total average of 3 stars. Respondents said that this event was interesting due to it implementing the tower killing feature, which current TDS does not have. Overall, respondents said that this event was fairly easy and that the Raider boss was about the only thing making this mode a challenge. Respondents agree that this was a decent mode, however, it's safe to say that it was somewhat forgettable. At number 15, we have the Halloween 2019 event with a total average of 3 stars. Unfortunately, the respondents that did answer did not bother to write descriptions as to why they ranked this mode the way they did. At number 14, we have the Christmas 2019 event with a total average of 3 stars. Unfortunately, the respondents that did answer did not bother to write descriptions as to why they ranked this event the way they did. At number 13, we have the Classic event of 2024 with a total average of 3 stars. Respondents seem to have the most mixed opinions about this event, a lot of respondents saying that it's one of the worst events, and some saying that it was a very good event. Respondents say that this event had a fun story and pretty good gameplay. Since there were 5 stages on this event, it forced you to use a variety of towers while also not letting you complete the event immediately. Respondents say that this event had a nice theme of simplicity that made it enjoyable, and it was much better than the previous event, which was the Hunt event. On the contrary, some respondents say that the multiple stages were a bit tedious and that the Hunt event was much more enjoyable. Some respondents say that the theme was overall boring, and a lot of negative responses seem to agree that there absolutely being no new enemies was not good. A majority of responses seem to agree that the reward for completing this event was underwhelming, with only a few respondents actually enjoying the reward. Again, overall, these responses seem to be pretty mixed, which makes the star count being exactly 3 make sense. At number 12, we have the Violent Night event of 2022 with a total average of 3.1 stars. A majority of respondents seem to agree that the reusage of the Defend the Center gameplay from the Duck Hunt event was extraordinarily underwhelming, with the same majority not liking it just for that. Every one of these people seem to agree that this event was bad, but it wasn't absolutely awful. The minority seems to think that the Defend the Center gameplay being recycled was somewhat underwhelming, but they also think that the entire atmosphere of the event was amazing, with the OSTs, skins, and the whole vibe of the event being great. Overall, this event had some fairly mixed opinions, but it does seem like a majority of players think it was at least okay. At number 11, we have the Duck Hunt event of 2022 with a total average of 3.1 stars. Respondents think that this mode was mostly alright, as it first introduced Defend the Center gameplay, unlike Violent Night, which copied this Defend the Center gameplay. Respondents seem to agree that it was a nice change of pace for the TDS gameplay loop, however they think it shouldn't have ever returned. Most players were upset because it was an event with absolutely no event tower, which led to a lot of low rating. Overall, most of the responses here are neutral or are somewhat positive about the event. At number 10, we have the Lunar Overture event of 2023 with a total average of 3.3 stars. Respondents mostly say that this was an amazing event, with every single part of the event being great, other than the third act of the event level. The third level of the event was able to be cleared with 1 tower, which was mentioned in a majority of responses. This really ruined the event for a lot of people, even warranting some 1-star reactions. However, other than that, a lot of people really liked the battle pass, the skin crates, the lobby, and even the free UGC that they gave away as a random chance reward for triumphing some of the levels. Overall, there is a common opinion among all respondents saying that this was an absolutely amazing event, but the third act really dragged it down. At number 9, we have the Spring 2020 event with a total average of 3.4 stars. Respondents said that the event was a little slow-paced, however, it was fun to play. Respondents were a little bit lacking in their descriptions of this event, however, a common theme among almost all respondents was agreeing that it was incredibly fun. On the contrary, few respondents said it was mediocre, only decent, or bland. Overall, respondents thought this was a fun experience, but the gameplay could have used a little bit of work. At number 8, we have the Ducky Revenge event of 2025 with a total average of 3.5 stars. Respondents said that this event was incredibly fun and colorful, and the entire event was overall very high quality. Respondents said that this was a very challenging event, and even the extra things like the bunny turrets were super cool. On the contrary, a lot of players said that this mode was not challenging, but tedious, spamming, and it forced you to use towers such as Pursuit and Mortar to counter enemies. A common complaint among all negative reviews was the performance on release of the update being incredibly unoptimized to the point where the event was unplayable. Overall, respondents thought that this event was very high quality and fun, and that a lot of the issues were fixed very soon after the event was released. At number 7, we have the Operation Ice event of 2024 with a total average of 3.6 stars. Respondents said that this event was absolutely amazing, with the map-breaking elements being absolutely amazing and led to the gameplay being less repetitive. However, some respondents seemed to agree that the map-breaking was somewhat pointless, as there wasn't much harm done from just placing your towers at the back from the start. This is the first time that quite a few respondents brought up the Battle Pass, praising it for its quality. Many players regretted not buying this Battle Pass. A majority of respondents also seemed to agree that this event was way too long, with an average game lasting around 30 to 50 minutes. Overall, a lot of respondents seemed to agree that the actual event level itself was not too fun to play, however, it was incredibly well designed with great composition, and it has some of the best polish that we've ever seen from a TDS event. At number 6, we have the Hexcape event of 2024 with a total average of 3.8 stars. Respondents have mixed opinions about the event levels, some saying that they were all incredibly well designed and that the gimmicks of some of the bosses were very innovative and fun to play against. On the downside, some respondents said that this event didn't feel like a Halloween event at all, and that the event was so laggy and it was impossible to enjoy because of that. Some respondents disliked that this was the start of a new type of battle pass, and worst of all, it was not a great battle pass in the first place. However, on the contrary, contrary, a lot of players said that this was the start of TDS building a real story that was easy to understand. Overall, respondents all mostly agreed that the production quality was most definitely upped compared to the last events that had come out, with a minority not enjoying the event at all, and a majority agreeing that it was at least a decent event. At number 5, we have the Halloween 2020 event with a total average of 4 stars. Respondents mostly have positive opinions about this event, with one respondent saying that the Halloween 2020 event was a noticeable improvement in quality for a tower defense simulator event, saying it was by far the most solid event to come to TDS at the time. Multiple respondents stated how they enjoyed the civilians that came in on the last wave of the event mode and how it was very charming. Almost every positive review mentioned how the skins were absolutely amazing from this event. On the other hand, some respondents say that this event was way too hard, with incredibly powerful towers such as Golden Minigunner and Accelerator not even being enough to defeat this event. Another respondent mentioned that they recall a map from another tower defense game being noticeably similar. Overall, reviews on this event are incredibly positive, praising the event's innovation for TDS with good skins, a fun boss enemy, and a cool battle pass, despite the event mode being difficult. At number 4, we have the Krampus Revenge event of 2023 with a total average of 4 stars. Respondents say that this was a very good event. They say that the event mode had a lot of replayability and that it was a nice breath of fresh air compared to previous content that TDS has offered. Respondents say that the map changing was quite a fun mechanic for the event level and that the entire map design was incredibly well thought out and put together smoothly. Respondents also noted that the event music was especially great this year and that the storyline with Krampus returning was really fun and enjoyable. On the other hand, some respondents thought that Krampus returning was a poor decision. They also thought that the many returning enemies was overall a bad addition to the event as well. Respondents also pointed out that the mode was unbalanced and sometimes too easy, even when playing solo, and that the meta for the event mode was restricted to very few towers. Quite a few respondents were neutral on this event as well, saying it was an overall forgettable event that could be described as mid. Overall, the respondents on this event were very mixed, however, there were definitely more positive responses than there were negative responses. Respondents overall think that this event was a very fun one, with the main event mode being a key selling point to its greatness. It's clear that there were quite a few reused enemies, with a lot of players thinking that the reused enemies weren't that bad, and a lot thinking that it was a deal breaker. Finally, at the top 3. At number 3, we have the Frost Invasion event of 2021 with a total average of 4.1 stars. Respondents agreed that this was a good and fun event due to the great theming and the mechanics of the 4-lane map. A lot of respondents mentioned the remarkable soundtrack as well, and some of the respondents mentioned the balanced and consistent difficulty throughout the mode. On the other hand, only one respondent mentions how this event was overrated. They also decided to mention that they only played this event in TDS Universal. Anyway, overall, some respondents agreed that this was at the very least not bad. However, a lot of respondents overall think it was better than that, being amazing because of the amount of fun things they had in the event, and a lot of respondents agreed that this event was worth the large delay that it had before it first released. Side note, this is the first response to have absolutely zero negative reviews and only positive or neutral reviews, other than the older events, of course. At number 2, we have the Solar Eclipse event of 2021 with a total average of 4.3 stars. A lot of respondents overwhelmingly agree that this is one of the best events of all time in TDS. Multiple respondents mentioned how the night system was an absolutely amazing idea. They also mentioned how the entire theming of the event was great too, with the skins being great, the gameplay being great, and the replayability being great as well. On the downside, some respondents think that the first few nights of this event were a bit too basic or unbalanced, with quite a few respondents agreeing that Night 2 was incredibly difficult to play. One respondent disagrees with the positive reviews and thinks that the gameplay was pretty boring and that the limited skins were bad. Overall, respondents agree that this was one of the best events to ever come to TDS, saying that this event had a vibe that TDS hasn't been able to recreate since, and that very few aspects of the event were not good. However, few respondents overall disagree with the overwhelming positivity and say that this event wasn't too fun. But nonetheless, they still think it was a step up for TDS. Now, finally, we're at the final event. The number 1 best community rated event is the Null and Void event of 2025 with a total average of 4.4 stars. Mostly every single respondent agrees that this event was absolutely amazing, being even better than some of the most well-known events such as Solar Eclipse and Frost Invasion. A lot of respondents agree that this event was amazing for many reasons, just one of them being that this event made the lore of TDS so much more clear, with a lot of respondents mentioning that in their reviews. When it comes to gameplay, respondents agree that there are very few negatives, with all of the nights of the event feeling different in their own ways and most definitely challenging, having a lot of respondents agreeing that this is one of the most skill-based events that TDS has ever had to offer, with new mechanics such as curses adding even more depth to the gameplay. On the downside, some respondents question the balancing of some of the wave structures, with the overall wave structure difficulty throughout the nights being inconsistent, especially on night 2. Some players also thought that the battle pass for this event was a little underwhelming, with the skins missing the Halloween feel. Only very few respondents found the event forgettable and disliked the design of each night, but still agreed that it was at the very least a decent event. Overall, respondents thought this event definitely deserves to be regarded as one of the best events that TDS has ever had to offer, with absolutely zero reviews under 3 stars. Almost all of the respondents thought that nearly every aspect of the event was good or perfect, being an absolute blast for them. Only few players thought this event was mid at best. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I spent so much time working on it, and it's definitely my biggest video yet. Now, what would you guys like to see next? Should I repeat this again next year and see what people think? Let me know down in the comments below. My name is Rastility. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more like this, then please subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.